Hello and welcome back to Product Champ Studio, your go-to destination for all things product. I'm Charity, your host for today, and today I'll be having a conversation with the amazing Jorge Herna. Over the last couple of years, Jorge has been leading and executing a lot of product vision for different companies as part of a product agency, and now working in his own agency at the NoCode studio. So I'm very curious to learn from Jorge today all about prototyping and why product managers need to, get better at prototyping just to add value to the work that they're doing with their clients. And Jorge, welcome very much to the show. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you so much, Harity. Thank you, for
Oh,
having this opportunity to talk and spread the word, talk about what I know, and let's see if I can help someone.
great. I'm sure you will. Yeah, we all have so much to learn from you. So, how are you today? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do we need to know about your history and about you outside of work as well?
I'm actually from Barcelona, but nowadays I'm digital nomad.
Mhm,
I basically started working in technology not that recently, but not that long ago.
mhm,
My background is in business, and since I was like 18, I started working in the business side of
mhm,
the work.
mhm,
But then actually I've discovered, like product management very late in my career, but I finally said, okay, love what they are trying to do, right? And since around 2019, I work as a product manager first, interim product manager. Now have my own agency where we
mhm,
try to combine, one thing that is no code that I will talk about that later on, and product management just to help businesses that are trying to start with in digital software. They don't
mhm.
know what to do. Yeah, long story short, from Barcelona, digital nomad. I love traveling around.
Yeah.
Now I have my agency, and yeah, mostly to help entrepreneurs and businesses to start in software.
No, that's wonderful. You said you started out with a business background, so I'm curious to know how that journey was from business, what you used to do, and how that progressed into
Mm-hmm,
product management.
mm-hmm,
Maybe you can
mm-hmm,
talk a bit about how that background influences your work as a PM. Yeah.
mm-hmm, sure. So it's funny because
Hmm.
when I talk about this, how did you ended up doing product with
Yeah.
other colleagues, and they have sometimes more or less a similar path. They did product management without
Hmm.
knowing that they were doing product management,
Yeah.
and not sometimes even working with tech companies, right? In my case, when I was working as a business development manager or the person working in partnerships for
Hmm.
previous companies that I was
Hmm.
working on, I work in several different small products that we were using internally.
Hmm.
Okay. And, from at the beginning, I was basically helping my company to build a product that is to train the SDRs to get better doing their
Hmm.
work.
Hmm.
And that's when I said, okay, this is funny. This is interesting. We can evaluate if this actually being an impact.
Hmm.
I did some sort of those things several times when I was working in the business side of the work, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Then when I didn't want to work more anymore in the business side
Yeah.
of the work, I just said, okay, what can
Hmm.
I do? And I love
Hmm.
technology. What is outside that I can basically use to combine what
Hmm.
I know
Hmm.
uh, about, building internet products, what I know about, sales, growth scales,
Hmm.
different stuff about that.
Hmm.
And then I discovered product. It was actually quite difficult path
Hmm.
because every person that is not a tech person or a designer,
Hmm.
maybe they think, okay, should I be a very techy person to start working as a product manager?
Yeah.
But yeah, I know it takes some time to learn about, everything that surrounds digital product management.
Hmm.
But I did it, and then I started working as a product manager for a company
Hmm.
called People. Yeah, long story short, when I started, I knew I was doing something with product. I always
Hmm.
wanted to create something with product because I felt that we can provide a better impact to the user, solving a
Hmm.
real problem rather than just pushing sales.
Hmm.
Then I ended up working in product and in technology because at some point I was burning out. I don't want to work in this part of the business anymore. And then
Yeah.
I said, what can I do? And I discovered that I could do product management. And this is basically a long
Hmm.
story short, the
Great.
whole story.
Yeah. So during like your reskilling or upskilling process, like did you do any like programs or you basically were learning from different sources and on the job
Mm,
essentially? Yeah.
Actually,
Uh-huh.
no. Uh,
Yeah.
and I don't think that was because I couldn't. It was mostly because I felt that in Spain, which
Mm-hmm.
is basically the place that I'm usually based,
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have at that time that much, like a boot camp or similar things that
Mm-hmm.
where you could learn about product management.
Mm-hmm.
I've discovered product management when I was living in Los Angeles at that point.
Mm-hmm.
The scenario there was big, so I said, okay, I
Mm-hmm.
will try to learn from different sources. I wanted to do something by myself, and then I work as a freelancer for these very small gigs to build
Mm-hmm.
product. And then because of that experience, I could manage to end up, to work, to find my full time job
Mm-hmm.
as a product manager. But I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do any kind of like boot camp.
Mm.
If I could start now, maybe I could do. They
Yeah.
Now there is a big business around that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was very traditional. I learned by myself.
Yeah. I think naturally for myself also being a self-taught designer, I think that's the path that at the time feels natural. You also get to learn, in the moment actually doing things as opposed to it being like super theoretical. Yeah. So I think I
Yeah,
would, but it's definitely easier like doing a boot camp and someone has a whole curriculum set out for you. It's easier, it's
yeah.
faster, but yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I love what you said
Mhm.
about the theory part of the work.
Yeah.
When I started as working as a product
Mhm.
manager, one of the things that I love was, like the mindset, the frameworks, the
Exactly.
experimentation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you start working in a real
Mhm.
company. It could be, pre-seed, startup, growth,
Mhm.
whatever. And then you
Mhm.
realize, okay, I cannot do things by the book here.
Yeah.
What can I do? So
Yeah.
in my previous company, I used to manage and upskill different associates. And the
Mhm.
first thing I told them was like, okay, everything you know about product, I love that you know the theory, but
Mhm.
now is the moment where you need to train your brain and say, okay,
Yeah.
how can I use what I know
Yeah.
just to make things better? And sometimes learn how
Yeah.
to drop things that you know just to
Mhm.
make things happen, because
That's
that's the other part, right?
exactly. Yeah, I think definitely based on where you're working, context is always different. So it's just a mindset that you apply in different contexts. And that's a
Totally,
thing you just
totally.
have to do on the job. Yeah, so I'm curious to know your story, the story of NoCode PM
Hmm.
agency. Let me know, kind of how did you come up with this idea? What was, who are you serving? Who
Hmm.
are you targeting?
Hmm.
Yeah, just the whole
Right.
package.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah. Um, at first, as I said at the beginning, I was working, as a business development manager for,
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, different French and Spanish companies.
Mm-hmm.
I always had my base, like
Yeah.
ghosts, follow me every time, everywhere I go. And actually, this shaped a lot of my ways of doing product management, because
Yeah.
when you come from the design, when you come from the technology, you always try to, we have a saying in Spanish that is barrer
Mhm,
para casa, which is basically you try to drag everything to your realm, right?
mhm,
And I'm the
mhm.
business person. And every time I was just joining a table, I was like, okay, how much is this going to cost me?
Yeah.
How big is the ROI?
Mhm,
How is the long term, like cost of acquisition? And those kind
mhm,
of things, they shape my ways of seeing, product a lot.
mhm,
And when I was working at Product People,
mhm,
I could manage to work on different clients and different
mhm.
missions. That's how we call it.
Yeah.
And in some of them, I basically had the chance to try no code. Okay, at that
Mhm,
point, when you work as a product manager, you usually work with developers,
mhm,
like full stack, front end, back end, different
mhm,
type of development
mhm,
people, and then you have also the designers. But at that point, I had basically a mission where they wanted to try something. They wanted to explore a new idea, and they had
mhm,
like a small budget. They said, okay, can we
mhm,
do something with this budget that it could be,
mhm,
like or an app or whatever MVP that is necessary for us to understand if this is the right choice.
mhm.
And yeah, I basically pushed to use no code in a way. We
Yeah.
ended up building things in no code just to validate, and then yeah, finally they validate the product and they invested the money
Mhm,
and they transferred from no code to code. And from
mhm,
that long experience, which actually was like 8 months, not because of the development, but because it wanted to have enough time to gather data,
mm,
I said this could be a thing. And
mhm,
this could be a thing mostly for companies that they have decent ideas, but
mhm,
sometimes they don't do things in a product management way, or maybe in a
mhm,
more data-driven way,
Mhm.
but they can still have something to test, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, when I left my previous company, when I did my whole, exercise, how can I do something that is different? Then I just come up with, okay, what if I combine product management and no code? Because
Mhm.
I did just this several times for revamps, for new products, for other kind of experiments. It's
Mhm.
just a matter of finding the right people and the right market, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, this is what basically the story behind. This is the trigger, right?
Yeah.
Uh, we started doing this like in a very good way officially January this year. I officially started in that November last year
Mhm.
alone, but it takes some time, right? You cannot build
Mhm.
with no code just by yourself. You can do it, but if
Mhm.
you want to have a decent business, you need a team, right? So
Yeah.
that was the beginning, and then nowadays it's just combining product management and no code.
And no code. Yeah, I think that's really fascinating that you say that. I think no code tools recently have become, we're getting more and more tools. We're getting more and more of these softwares built out to the level where someone non-technical can jump in and build something really powerful off the jump. I think
Hmm.
my previous workplace where we met essentially at Microverse, we were using a lot of no code. And before then, if you'd asked me like, oh, can you build a whole business around no code? I'd probably have told you no. But
Yeah.
just working fast hand with these tools and seeing the capabilities that it gives you, the ability to ship really
Hmm.
quickly. And I
Hmm.
think it's good you're working with, when you're working with, let's say, non-technical customers who are trying to build something and don't have necessarily the budget, as you said. I think this is a way. I had a guest who likes to say, test things cheaply and quickly.
Hmm.
So no code is one of the best ways to do that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally, totally. It's
Hmm.
the same. I would say that if you work with AI, right, tools,
Yeah.
and you
Hmm.
get the version 2.0 yourself.
Hmm.
And it is true that depending on the no-code tool, it takes some time to learn how to use it because
Yeah.
it depends on the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But at least it's easy to start, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the
Yeah.
same as, easy to start, difficult to master. At least you
Yeah.
can start and try to get some things that are decent enough to share
Yeah.
and then, get traction.
Exactly. It's easier than telling someone learn HTML and JavaScript in a
Yeah,
weekend
exactly.
something
Totally,
by
totally.
Monday.
That's
Right. And then like they can focus now on strategy and other things while knowing the no code part will take care of the
it.
technical. Yeah. So I can take you back to talking about the concept of an MVP, for example. So
Hmm.
what is usually your approach for designing a minimum viable product for your clients?
So everything starts with the
Hmm.
client, right? So first,
Yeah.
it's actually a very simple, not
Mhm.
simple, but direct ways of explaining this. So
Yeah.
is we try to have a clear information about what is
Mhm.
basically the problem or the goal or the opportunity. That's what we call it,
Mhm.
that the client has to that and wants to explore, right?
Mhm.
Because in a way, everything starts from there.
Mhm.
The quality of the information that you have about the problem will define the
Mhm.
type of MVP, type of
Mhm.
goal that you are trying to achieve. It will define the MVP, right?
Mhm.
So what we do first is, have long conversations with the client to understand what do they want, what's the status quo of everything, what's
Mhm.
basically the risk if we try to do things and maybe things go wrong.
Mhm.
And then once we have all this information, we basically
Mhm.
discard what is not necessary for that MVP.
Mhm.
Because in a way, I know that some companies they understand that some companies or other professionals they understand the concept of MVP
Mhm.
as something that is tangible enough so
Mhm.
you can start getting
Mhm.
data about a solution or about a specific problem. But in a
Mhm.
way, in NoCode PM, once we have this information, we
Mhm.
select the type of MVP that we want to run
Mhm.
because it's not always the same. If we just want to get, let's say, market validation, we
Mhm.
don't need to build an app to get market
Mhm.
validation. We can
Mhm.
go with a more simple solution. Could be market research, could be a landing page with an ads campaign, could be
Mhm.
whatever, right? So first we try to guard the goal, problems, opportunity, and risk coming from the client.
Mhm.
Second, we discard the MVPs that are not a match for this type of goal.
Mhm.
Uh, as I said, sometimes the MVP that we select is not as the client what it was expecting because sometimes the client is
Mhm.
excited like, about an idea and
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, fantastic!" Like,
That's
do you
true.
really want to do this? I mean, we can do
Mhm.
this for you. It's gonna take us, I don't know, 2 months and this
Yeah.
much of money. But if you just want to have data, we can go in a
Mhm.
different direction. And this is basically what we do,
Yeah.
the second step, right?
Mhm.
And the third one, right, depending of, if we are trying to get market validation or user validation, we
Mm-hmm.
we execute, right? We design
Mm-hmm.
the prototype, we build the MVP that we want to launch and test to
Mm-hmm.
gather information for one side or the other one, or sometimes for both, right? Market or
Mm-hmm.
user validation, and depending
Mm-hmm.
of that, we go with different approaches. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, super simple. Starts everything with conversation, discard
Yeah.
about what we don't want to do, and then
Mm-hmm.
we decide about the kind of experiment that we want to launch based it on the goal, market
Yeah.
validation or user validation.
Yeah. Interesting. I think one thing you mentioned there sticks out to me, that when you come to a client and the client is already kind of married to the idea, and
Hmm.
essentially your process of creating the MVP is to help them decide, what to keep versus what to discard, how to test whether the idea is actually viable. So I'm curious, how do you go about presenting, this process of, essentially it's like discovery or experimentation early on, to
Hmm.
your client in a way that's palatable to them, when initially they came to you with a fixed idea that they want you to execute, right?
Hmm. Hmm. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what we really want
Yeah,
to do at NoCode is to help people, right?
yeah,
Sometimes you need to find this middle ground between what they want and what we
yeah,
think they should have. It's like in the whatever book, what
yeah,
the hero wants and the hero needs.
yeah.
And every time we have conversations, the ones we understand the goal,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we have a very honest feedback after that conversation. Could be
Mm-hmm.
email, could be another conversation, could be a Loom video, where we
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, we are ready to start maybe with solution space just to
Mm-hmm.
test the solution, because you
Mm-hmm.
have another information that tells you that
Mm-hmm.
this new venture that we want to try for your business. Let's imagine that you have a soccer club, and you have a great idea to start attracting more fans and revenue from that direction.
Mm-hmm.
If you already are in that market and if you have local experience, I'm not going to be the one that is telling you you don't have enough
Yeah,
data. I will
yeah.
probably be the one that has more hypothesis around this possibly
Mm-hmm.
opportunity, but
Mm-hmm.
we will use your data, as a main source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when the client comes and says, I want to build this, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to explore it, but I think that I really need to build it in order to test it.
Mm-hmm.
If this is a new company that have
Mm-hmm.
zero data, we always try to push like, okay, good idea, but
Mm-hmm.
how much do we know about the problem, the industry, the persona,
Mm-hmm.
the problems? If you already are a company like that,
Mm-hmm.
10 years of experience working in this kind of industry,
Mm-hmm.
we might have more questions to understand that you are on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
But then we will, if they want to build a solution,
Mm-hmm.
we will say, okay, we feel that you are ready to start building the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, even if we don't feel that they are ready, we can just say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you are not ready. You still want to try. We are really
Mm-hmm.
advise you to do this. So it's more or less, this conversation with them,
Yeah.
trying to tell them it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but then, of course, we want this to make them
Mm-hmm.
happen in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of tricky situation.
That's true. Yeah. I had a previous guest, actually on another podcast. I heard a conversation where they were having and saying, at the end of the day, much as you're here to advise, you need to remember who's paying the bill and who's
Yeah,
owning the
actually, one of my first clients
Yeah.
told me about that. Okay, you will
Yeah.
have like enterprise clients where you have a very clear idea about what they want, you just
Hmm.
build.
Exactly.
Sometimes you are not happy with what you're building, but you just build.
Exactly.
Then you will have other type of clients that will have more flexibility, and then where you can be like, oh, I
Yeah.
have now I have more room to do some
Yeah.
things, and then I can try it, right? So yeah, it's
Exactly.
just you need to learn how to
Yeah.
behave with those different type of clients.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's for myself, I try to think of myself kind of as an advisor. It's like the little birdie in your ear telling you, oh, you can do this. But if you are married to what you want to do in the direction, I may as well help you execute.
No,
But
don't
yeah,
worry, I
thank you.
understand what
Thank
you're
you.
talking.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm curious now, about the process of coming up with an MVP. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that, and then um, during an MVP, I know you create a bunch of different prototypes that you are going to use to validate your different hypotheses.
Hmm.
How do you now start distributing your prototypes? How do you decide what prototype to create, and then how do you
Hmm.
decide how to distribute it? If you're distributing, how do you decide
Hmm.
I mean, what metrics do you look at? And I know I've asked like a bunch of questions,
No
but
worry
basically
about
walk
that.
me
But
through
we can
your,
start, from the top.
yeah, your
Okay.
MVP process to prototyping
Mhm.
and yeah, just basically gathering insights from the prototype
Okay,
stage.
so connected with what we said about before, right? We first have
Yeah.
the conversation to understand the goals,
Mm-hmm.
how good they have, how good they are about knowing about the problem or the opportunity that they want to solve. If
Mm-hmm.
they know if they have decent data, we try, a real solution. If they need more data, we try more experiments just to gather,
Mm-hmm.
and refine the shot, and then try
Mm-hmm.
to build something more solid. But in a
Mm-hmm.
way, we try to still to keep things simple. We prototype the future MVPs, or we
Mm-hmm.
prefer call it experiments, because sometimes when people
Mm-hmm.
listen to MVP, they think about tangible
Mm-hmm.
things, right? Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
an app. So we decide about the experiments based on the kind of learnings that we want to get,
Mm-hmm.
right? In a
Yeah.
way, independently if they just want to build and execute, we still
Mm-hmm.
need to learn if that solution is going to be a fit
Mm-hmm.
for the kind of problem that they are trying to solve, and also the kind of user that they are trying to attract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every time after we are done with the conversation, we discard the possibilities of, market or user validation. What we do is we work with them, and then with the product designer and the tech and the product maker. That's how we call the person that knows how to
Mm-hmm.
build with no code, about what
Mm-hmm.
could be the best experiment for us, okay, to
Mm-hmm.
gather the data that we are missing here in order to move to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting from this point where we still don't have enough data just to start building from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And based on that, we already know some sort of experience that they have better performance in terms of, okay, this kind of data, it's easy to get from a landing page rather than a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, we once we know about the goal, we set hypotheses and assumptions about that
Mm-hmm.
goal. We brainstorm all together about what are the most risky ones that they need to be validated, even though I don't like the word, well, the verb validation, because
Mm-hmm.
in product is not this is right, this is wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
this is right now, and then we need to still make things better,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, hypothesis, assumptions about the goal that they or the opportunity that they want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
We decide about what we are missing and what are basically the most difficult ones that we need to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, if this is true, then the whole idea it's done. It's
Mm-hmm.
done and it's not going to work. We decide
Mm-hmm.
about the type of experiment that we think is going to give us the information that we need to say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this assumption or this hypothesis is not very bad one for the business, or it is not happening
Yeah.
at all. And
Mm-hmm.
for that, we already have like a um, not portfolio, because everyone knows about the kind of experience that you can go. If you go to Google, you can type experiments as a product
Mm-hmm.
manager, blah blah blah, and you will get a list.
Mm-hmm.
And we basically have our own list where we say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we have this. We are missing this type of information, more about
Mm-hmm.
demographics or more about the market.
Mm-hmm.
It's better if we go in this direction. Or if
Mm-hmm.
we're missing something that is more about, the core problem, and we don't understand the triggers coming from the user in order to start or
Mm-hmm.
maybe to find your solution, we go with a different experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We work with the client because in a way, even though we have the list and we propose,
Yeah.
we can have an eternal conversation where we propose and they say, I have no money, I have no
Mm-hmm.
time, I don't have that. So we involve them in the process where they can work with us. We advise, while we talk, and we do this exercise, and then all together we decide on the type of experiments that are inside the
Mm-hmm.
budget and the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone involved knows about, we are doing this experiment because we need this type
Mm-hmm.
of information. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, then we will decide on what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's basically the whole explanation.
Yeah.
Opportunities, hypothesis, assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
experiments around those hypotheses and assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a landing page, could be a
Mm-hmm.
video, could be an app. That depends on the kind of
Mm-hmm.
information that we're trying to get to
Yeah.
validate or not the hypothesis.
Okay, yeah. I think that's really interesting that you say that, basically trying to find ways to design different, as you say, experiments that will uncover
Mm-hmm.
the insights that you need. Like, what are these unknowns, things that we need to kind of figure out to, sometimes I like to say de-risk, but I know
Mm-hmm.
de-risk probably isn't the best word for this, but to kind of identify what type of solution we want to build, what is likely to work versus what isn't likely to work
Yeah,
in,
and
in the
it's
current landscape.
yeah, I think
Mhm.
that's the best approach that we could come
Yeah.
out after working with several different, like
Mhm.
missions.
Mhm.
Of course, after once you have the decision on the type of experiment, you can go
Mhm.
with one or multiple. That's depending of the budget, the team,
Mhm.
because it doesn't make sense to try three different things to try to take three different kinds of data if you
Mhm.
won't be able to analyze or perform
Yeah.
things perfectly right.
Mhm.
Sometimes we have enough resources to test multiple things, and sometimes we just test one thing 1 week.
Yeah.
That depends on the client. But as soon as we know about the
Mhm.
experiment, yeah, we always try to use the storytelling, right,
Mhm.
to present these experiments as if it would be something that is real and that is already in the market. So what the user gets is actually the full idea and the full picture of
Mhm.
what they want to achieve.
Mhm.
And then based on that, we just say, okay, with this hypothesis, this
Mhm.
experiment, and this kind of narrative that we want
Yeah.
to share. What is the no code tool that it doesn't make sense? Because
Mhm.
that's something actually I miss.
Mhm.
The last step in the process
Mhm.
is, okay, are we going to use no code or not?
Mhm.
Sometimes we can use no code. Sometimes we don't need no code. If we
Mhm.
decide that we need to have actual conversations with possible users.
Mhm.
We don't need no code for that. But if
Mhm.
we need no code, sometimes we have different approaches, because if we want to build a website, we have Framer, we have Webflow, we have other things.
Mhm.
If we want to really build some just core functionality about a future app, a piecemeal app,
Mhm.
you have Glide, you have Software, you have Bubble.
Mhm.
Uh, we This last step of once we know about the experiment is just to decide if we are going to use no code or not. And
Mhm.
if we use no code, what's the best solution for us so we can do things quickly, because that's
Mhm.
all about the no code thing that we are trying to implement here, that we
Mhm.
can build things easily and more and faster than with a regular development, so we
Mhm.
can start building, and testing faster.
Yeah. Great. So I'm curious now, at the end of your process, so now what are I'm sure you had set out maybe metrics and things you're going to look at during the synthesis process to kind of
Mm-hmm.
understand and get
Mm-hmm.
insights from this experiment that you're doing. So maybe you have like a subset of people that are using your
Mm-hmm.
prototype. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you go about setting metrics and tying these results back to the
Mm-hmm.
goal of your
Mm-hmm.
experiment?
Okay. So in a way, first this
Mhm.
I want to share the disclaimer. When we talk about product analytics, right?
Mhm.
I prefer watching, numbers in a way that they can tell me that things
Mhm.
that we're doing, at least they are trying to create some sort of effect.
Mm.
We are not setting 100% acceptance criteria
Mhm.
when it comes to numbers at first, at least for the first experiment, because
Mhm.
there is nothing that simple as if we get to 100 people,
Mhm.
it's right or wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because there are other things that you still need to validate. But when it comes to metrics, and it depending on if we are trying to learn about market validation or user
Mm.
validation,
Mhm.
but we still are very, very horizontal. In a way,
Mhm.
every experiment has, the way how we acquire people trying that is going to use or see the website or the app that we're building, the
Mhm.
way how we consider that this user is activated, right? Because in a way, not every step or behave, from coming from the user is what we call an activation
Mhm.
trigger. And then what we check is engagement and retention.
Mhm.
Maybe now that I mentioned talking about this out loud, you can say this is R. Yes, this is R.
Mhm.
Actually, we use the R pirates metrics a lot. I don't know if you know
Mhm.
them, but it's basically
Mm.
acquisition, activation, retention,
Mhm.
engagement, and revenue. For experiments, sometimes we don't go with revenue metrics, but the most important ones for us are, activation,
Mhm.
um, engagement, and retention. Because in a
Mhm.
way, what would be when in terms of activation is if they are doing this in this
Mhm.
specific, journey,
Mhm.
that means that they are understanding the process, and then we can
Mhm.
consider they're activated and they
Mhm.
understand the goal and the
Yeah.
solution. Retention and engagement is self-explanatory, right? If they're
Mhm.
engaging multiple times, that means that
Mhm.
they are finding some value. We still don't know yet, but there is engagement. And then retention, the same thing, right? Okay, how long are they, like they're staying in the app? Are they
Mhm.
returning, or at least not the app, but the solution or the experience that we are building, right? So
Mhm.
acquisition, retention, activations are the key metrics that we use in a,
Mhm.
independently of if we are trying to validate market or user validation, because we feel that at least for early stage
Mhm.
discovery, like
Mhm.
not a product that is already in market, that's the must. And then everything goes from there. If we don't have enough activation or retention and engagement, it doesn't make sense to do things. Maybe we're doing things incorrectly, right?
Mhm. Yeah. So that basically helps you kind of shape the direction of your strategy. So people are not
Yeah.
engaging with this in the way that we thought. Maybe they're engaging
Hmm.
in a different way. Can we
Hmm.
pivot
Hmm.
towards a different type of solution? Yeah, I think that's really interesting. So I'm curious to see how now you would apply this. And I know you had mentioned a case. So maybe you can
Hmm.
do a little demo of how you would go about assessing this case and then,
Totally. We can do
designing a
that.
little
Actually,
prototype.
I will
Yeah.
I will start very simple with my explanation. I just need to see how can I share the screen. Okay,
Yes.
screen.
At the bottom,
Let's
there's a little
see.
button,
Okay,
share.
there you go. I
Mhm.
will share this window.
All right.
Okay. Um, and this is, let's imagine that you are my client for the first time. I just said
Mm-hmm.
sports club, but I will just go with, I don't know, education program
Mm-hmm.
overseas. Okay. At first, as I said at the beginning, it's very simple. We need to know if this is a new venture. Okay, you are starting this because you
Mm-hmm.
have an assumption about an idea and you
Mm-hmm.
just want to launch a new business. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's a business, an idea that is coming from, like
Mm-hmm.
a solid company. Once we
Mm-hmm.
know about that, we basically start with a very simple, oh, it's actually, this
Mm-hmm.
is very small. We start with a
Yeah.
very simple conversation where we basically start checking first the problems and the
Mm-hmm.
opportunities, okay? Because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's not just about the problem, it's an opportunity that people see.
Mm-hmm.
The second step that we do is basically we sort the opportunity
Mm-hmm.
based on the quality of the data. Maybe now it's too big, but well, it's just very smaller. And
Mm-hmm.
then the last step is, oops, oh my God, we are having trouble.
No
Okay,
problem.
and the last step
Yeah.
would be mostly about,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, how do we think that we are gonna learn, like brainstorming the
Mm-hmm.
experiments, right? Um, so this is basically an explanation, real life with with an
Mm-hmm.
example of what we do with the client, so they can see how
Mm-hmm.
we work. And it's basically not just
Mm-hmm.
magic; it's just a process that is coming from product management that, in a way, is
Yeah.
based on scientific approach. That
Okay.
everything comes from a problem and opportunity.
Yeah.
Then,
Just
depending
a
on the
second.
quality of data, we sort it, and then the last one is we brainstorm.
Mhm.
So the example
Yeah.
that I want to share with you, let's say
Question,
the education.
Jorge.
Oh,
Um,
go please.
yeah. Now, so like essentially you'd be doing this work, essentially like co-working with them in like a workshop format, or how would you get the customer to this point?
Yeah, was as soon as
Mm-hmm.
we get like the first lead, saying that we want to
Mm-hmm.
explore this idea, and we
Mm-hmm.
tell them about what we do, and if
Okay.
we, depending on the goal, we start with a very first workshop with them
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to to start exploring basically this. We just realized that we cannot just start sending, like
Mm-hmm.
budgets or invoices or cost
Yeah.
estimations until we have
Mm-hmm.
at least this first, those, those two things clear.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though the client says that, yeah, we have like decent data that is telling us that we
Mm-hmm.
if we go in that direction, we will get like a very good product. Then we realize that we still need to have this process with them, because what happens
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is that they think that the quality of the data that you're using to say that this is a good idea or a good problem to solve is not strong enough just to
Mm-hmm.
start, with building.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens with clients, they just want to build.
Mm-hmm.
What we are the company that says, okay, we can build, but let's start,
A step
from
back.
step back
Yeah.
and then start with problems and opportunities. So first,
Mm-hmm.
as soon as they get in touch with us, we have this conversation where we evaluate the problems and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities. And it's actually very, very simple, because
Mm-hmm.
you can do this by yourself at your home. If you have like a
Mm-hmm.
new business idea, you can say that, for example, education program overseas.
Mm-hmm.
We see an opportunity that people want to learn a new language
Mm-hmm.
but don't have the money. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
inventing out loud to say to put some
Yeah.
mock-up example of opportunities.
Mhm.
Yeah, people want to learn a new language, but don't that have
Mhm.
money,
Mhm.
but don't know where to go.
Mhm.
And then let's just put that last one, just for the sake of having three. Um, let's just put like people want to learn a new language, have the
Mhm.
money, know where to go, but don't know how to
Mhm.
start,
Mhm.
right? So let's
Yeah.
say we have three different opportunities, and the client is coming with these three new possible opportunities. I
Mhm.
know that if I solve or I build a program to fund people
Mhm.
that are missing money, we will
Mhm.
get, we can create a business model using
Mhm.
that opportunity, and then we will have a new business.
Mhm.
The other thing is, yeah, we have people that want to learn a new language and
Mhm.
they have the money, but they don't know how to go. If we build and they don't know where to, if we build some sort of, I don't know, random picker that could help them to understand this is your next place to go and learn English, you can do that. And the last one is people want to learn about a new language, have money, know where to go, but they don't know how to start.
Mhm.
Because it's all about explanation. You can go to Google, see, okay, who is offering services, who is doing that, how can I get there? So as you can see, there are three types of businesses you can get just from these three opportunities. And
Mhm.
imagine that this client is coming and they are saying, yeah, we have this thing, we have this money, we want to test if one of these three
Mhm.
solutions are the good one. Sometimes we don't need to explore
Mhm.
that much about opportunities.
Mhm.
We don't have to ask them about how do they come up with these opportunities
Mhm.
if they are already in the market. Because as I said at the beginning, it depends a
Mhm.
lot if they're already in the market and they know
Mhm.
about the problem because they have been working there for a long time.
Mhm.
We ask questions, but not that much question. We are not inquisitive on the quality of
Mhm.
data. But the quality of data, and in case you don't know about this, we use is what we call a confidence level,
Mhm.
which is basically a process that tells you, okay, depending of the source of the data, we can
Mhm.
say that this is, poor data and strong data, right? If we
Mhm.
have data that is coming from after that, after we launch
Mhm.
an app with actual users in an actual
Mhm.
market, blah, 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 this is a strong data. If we have I don't know, my mom telling me, you know what, Jorge, the other day you could see that, people are starting they want to learn how to speak English better, but they don't know, they don't have money. If you start a business there, then you will get the money.
Mhm.
That's quick data. So as soon as we start conversations with the client, we understand about the opportunities,
Mhm.
we try to get them as much as we can of where did they get that information. We evaluate, we sort the data, uh,
Mhm.
and thanks to that, what we said is, okay, this idea that you got at the first has this confidence level, has this
Mhm.
scoring in terms of data.
Mhm.
Uh, we are good to go if you want to start building a solution and then test it.
Mhm.
If this one, let's say, has like a mid level confidence,
Mhm. Mhm.
and this one has low level confidence,
Mhm.
we still ask the client, what do you want to do? Because sometimes what they
Mhm.
want is, okay, I really want this idea, but
Mhm.
we have low levels of confidence. That
Mhm.
doesn't mean that this is a wrong selection. Is basically we don't know that much, and you thought that you knew a lot, and maybe
Mhm.
we need to learn more. So in case the client, let's say, push this idea, what we do is what we said, right? We start build writing the hypothesis
Mhm.
and assumptions around this idea.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what we do then is just we sort them, based on if this one is true, this one is them in
Mhm.
the business, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. In a
So there's
way,
some mapping of is it risky versus how much
yeah,
do you know about
as you
the
can see,
business?
it's
Mhm.
lots of, it's lots of brain work. You just go
Mhm.
there with a mirror board, very simple. You don't do anything fancy. You start with
Mhm.
a client, ask about the opportunities they think they have.
Mhm.
ask them about the data they have so you can
Mhm.
sort the quality of data. You
Mhm.
tell them, okay, based on what we know and based on using these rules of quality of data, we
Mhm.
can explore these three opportunities, but we recommend you maybe this one because we know that the data is actually more reliable, and then we can start, you know,
Mhm.
right away building the solution.
Mhm.
But if they still want to have a solution that is this one because they want to do it and they want to try, it's like, okay, we can start building something right away, but we still need first to do this
Mhm.
exercise. We have hypotheses, assumptions.
Mhm.
And once we sort them, because in a way you need to set some like cornerstone assumptions that you can use as if this is true,
Mhm.
and it's bad, then we don't have business, and then we have to go with this first idea,
Mhm.
that you can go back, right? So, and the last step is basically what I said at the
Mhm.
end, right? Based on the
Mhm.
hypothesis, on the score and the assumptions,
Mhm.
what is the best experiment that we can basically use
Mhm.
to gather the data, right? Could be Instagram. I have some clients that we go as simple as basically
Mhm.
building an Instagram campaign where we have to put
Mhm.
the money,
Mhm.
50 euros, let's say, we can have enough impressions we don't need, right? And we connect it with a form, and then we start gathering data. Then we have market validation. If we have enough
Mhm.
market validation, then this starts going, to the mid-level of confidence.
Mhm.
And we can, we deploy experiment by experiment in order to gather more
Mhm.
data so we can have more confidence on the idea. And
Mhm.
once we get to the biggest one, we
Mhm.
say, okay, we know enough. We can
Mhm.
we can build something that is more tangible.
Mhm.
Um, we are not of this. We are not a big fan of people that they just say build something super quick and then just try it.
Mhm.
Sometimes that works a lot, but in a
Mhm.
way, we feel that if you think,
Yeah.
previously a lot,
Yeah.
then you can reduce the number of iterations and
Mhm.
also the money that you're
Yeah. It's
money and time that you are implementing, right? Because this Instagram campaign maybe costs you like 50 euros, but if you go with Framer, web
Mhm.
on Framer, then you have to invest, the time to learn about the tool. If you don't know, you need to
Mhm.
learn about how much money it's going to cost you in case you need to use
Mhm.
the paid domain.
Mhm.
So we are a big fan of think first,
Mhm.
evaluate, how good is your data.
Mhm.
If the data is good, then maybe you are good to start building. If the
Mhm.
data is not that good, it's okay. We can start building some assumptions, hypotheses around this
Mhm.
idea, and then evaluate and sort.
Mhm.
And this would be basically the story that we will follow
Mhm.
with this company. And we do this with entrepreneurs and also with
Mhm.
businesses that are bigger, right?
Mhm.
We always use more or less the same approach because we realize that if we start
Mhm.
simple, and not in a fancy way, everyone can be involved in the process, can learn about
Yeah.
the process, and can use
Yeah.
it in a daily life, right?
True. Yeah. I really like this because it takes people back to start thinking about really what is the motivation for this idea that they want to push out. Sometimes, usually, it's just something they've seen. Oh, there's lots of new, apps like this that are coming out. So I want one. So it helps them to kind of understand the space, understand what else is out there, what really is a pain point, and what adds value versus what is just a nice to have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's 100% true. I mean,
Mhm.
you can maybe see this as with the AI, right?
Yeah.
Every new
Mhm.
product in the market now has
Has
AI implemented.
a
Now the big
yeah,
question is how useful is the AI for the
exactly.
user? Some
Mhm,
companies like, for example, Canva, maybe the AI is
mhm,
working pretty good because they are
mhm.
implementing in a very different ways.
Yeah.
But for others, maybe you
Mm,
check the engagement level, right?
mm,
And you can see, okay, it's not as good as I thought, right?
yeah.
So of course you need to go back, think about, like
Mhm,
where this idea come from, the quality
mhm,
of data, do
mhm,
your, own exercise of hypothesis and assumptions about the
mhm,
core value of your new product, and then
mhm,
start with ideation. Some
mhm,
product managers are very good with ideation, but
mhm.
once you start working in product, you realize that you need to start from the problem.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and for some people it's difficult because they are very
Mhm,
good and then the brain they just go with ideas.
mhm,
But in at least in my case,
mhm,
I'm a creative person, but I very analytic too. So I
mhm,
always start with a problem.
mhm.
I'm of the opinion that I don't really matter that much about the type of solution if we are really
Mhm.
getting an outcome, right?
Exactly.
So I know that sometimes a product manager or
Mhm.
sometimes with designers, this could be a trigger, a
Yeah.
friction conversation where they say, you know what, you don't care about box, you're
Yeah.
like, I'm concerned about the outcome. And you can tell that I coming from business world, right? Where
True.
I say, I see, okay, this
Yeah.
makes sense for me.
Yeah, that's true. I think that reminds me of the quote by, I think it's Einstein, that said, if you give me an hour to solve a problem, I would spend 15 minutes thinking about the problem and then 10 minutes solving it. I think it's the same principle here. In essence, I
Totally, no,
think,
no, this is the same
yeah,
principle.
as a designer, I'm also trying to unlearn that I'm already so in love with my first idea. It's, sometimes you've invested so much effort into it and thinking of tossing it out because it doesn't deliver the outcomes that you need or the outcomes that are valuable. It
Hmm.
can be hard, but I think it's a muscle you grow.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean,
yeah.
if you know how, if
Hmm.
you have a great idea
Yeah.
and you have like a decent ways of thinking, or not a
Hmm.
decent, but you already know how to start thinking in a product management way or a designer way, so you can basically
Hmm.
tackle things in a very business way of doing.
Hmm.
You can say, "Am I the first one in the market?
Yeah.
If there is no one doing this,
Hmm.
is there a reason why
Hmm.
this is happening? Right?
Hmm.
Maybe it's not worth a shot.
Hmm.
Maybe it's worth a shot, but there is a very big wall to start working or developing this product."
Hmm.
But at least you can start building your idea right away. But
Hmm.
yeah, the most important thing is you can have those questions before, and then you
Hmm.
say, okay, even though I know that maybe I don't have a proxy signal, or there is
Hmm.
no, or I could see that there is a very big
Hmm.
effort of, that is following my idea, I will still want to try. I
Yeah.
mean, no one knows about the future, and sometimes
Hmm.
you can build some good ideas from scratch without 100%, having this
Hmm.
discovery. Maybe you are in luck and you get a
Yeah.
great product running, right? So I
True.
don't
Yeah.
discourage people to
Mhm.
to try, because
Yeah.
in a way I feel that you at least learn, right?
Mm.
Because that's the
Hmm.
most important thing about product management and the work we do, to
Hmm.
learn
Hmm.
if this is the right path or not.
Yeah, true. I think as you said, it's a very lightning in the bottle thing. Like maybe if you are designing for yourself, a pain point that you as a, let's say, designer, for example, know very uniquely. Like I think only a designer can work at Figma, for example, because you
Mm-hmm.
understand the challenges of a designer. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't go and say I'm going to design something in the energy space. I have no idea how that works. So I can't
Mm-hmm.
just go into that problem space without doing this initial work because I haven't sat with the problem long enough. So,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
no, that's true, and that's why you usually, when you see the founders from whatever
Yeah.
new idea, you see,
Hmm.
I don't know, 10 years in a previous experience working in that
Hmm.
industry, and you understand, of
Exactly.
course, they're going to talk about
Yeah.
SaaS for
Mhm.
spas if they have running run
Yeah.
spas for 10 years, right? So they know about the
Yeah.
problem. That's why in product
Hmm.
management, they always say you need to learn a lot about the
Hmm.
problem and the user on the market.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't need to know that much, but at least if you
Hmm.
have that, 10 years of experience, of one
Hmm.
year of experience working in that field, yeah,
Hmm.
that you can use that, and you learn and you know about real problems, which is
Yeah.
sometimes difficult, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think I also like what you showed us with the fact that an ad campaign can be a sample of a prototype, for example.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
really
it is. It is actually, we
interesting.
have done it this multiple times, because in a
Hmm.
way it helps us to understand. Okay, based on the narrative of the product
Hmm.
that you are displaying, do
Hmm.
they understand the value? Do they
Yeah.
understand? Do they see themselves recognized with or related with this
Hmm.
solution? And then the call to action, that is,
Hmm.
yes, to fill a form or apply, at least shows some sort of interest. Maybe we
Hmm.
don't still know about the user validation once they start using the product, but
Hmm.
we have a signal that helps us to increase the
Hmm.
confidence from low
Yeah.
confidence. My mom tells me about this, and then now
Yeah.
we have, multiple people asking about
Hmm.
this, and then you can go on. I think people, they
Hmm.
misjudge or maybe don't know about these ways of
Hmm.
doing.
Hmm.
But trust me, I think it's better to do this and maybe
Hmm.
experiment 1 week rather than just go and start building from scratch with
Hmm.
Bubble, trying
Hmm.
to make things happen in 1 month or 2 months, and then
Yeah.
yeah, you have a product, but then you forgot about the other things, right?
Yeah. Great. So I'm interested to know what would you tell PMs about prototyping? How can they maybe leverage their team to design better
Hmm.
prototypes? And why should they themselves probably also learn how to,
Hmm.
at least use Framer in a very basic way or use, this different no-code tools?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Okay, so I feel that prototyping in a way and design helps PM product managers to first get more empathy with product designer
Mhm.
or the UX/UI person. That
Yeah.
actually is super important. If you
Mhm.
work just with tech, in a traditional tech development world, you have a team and
Mhm.
you work with multiple people. The better you know about how they do stuff, the better you can understand them, and the better you can have conversations with, when
Mhm.
some friction or brainstorm happens, right?
Mhm.
So that's the first reason why I think that product managers should at least be curious about everything that our colleagues from the design world
Mhm.
do, because you can get better. I mean,
Mhm.
it doesn't make sense that, I mean,
Mhm.
maybe you are this kind of people, but I feel that us as a person,
Yeah.
professionals, we always try to get better. Then the second point is that you can train your muscle of
Mhm.
solution space. So do you
Mhm.
remember that at first I said that we have
Mhm.
some product managers,
Mhm.
they have great ideas that they just want to
Yeah.
implement in the world.
Explore ideas. Yeah.
Then you start working in product, and then just give you a head like
Mhm.
that, like this, and then say, you know what, I love your idea, but where is the data that is following this
Yeah.
idea? Is this worth a shot? And then you need to
Mhm.
learn how to stop thinking a lot on your ideas, and then
Mhm.
start thinking from the problem, and then you
Mhm.
go with ideas. With time, you can get very used to work from the problem space, and
Mhm.
then get very bad in the solution space. Thank
Mhm.
God you have the developer and also the
Mhm.
designer that can help you with that. But it's
Mhm.
something that, for example, happened to me, that at first I was this type of person that we
Mhm.
can try this, we can do that, we can do whatever. Then you
Mhm.
go in a big company and they say, you know what, I have five people working for you. You cannot just go with ideation. You need to have some data, and then you go
Mhm.
back, you do your homework, you have the data, and then you start,
Mhm.
in aviation space. So prototyping, designing, learn more about that stuff,
Mhm.
because in a way, it's basically a muscle. The more you train, the
Mhm.
more you will get used to think, okay,
Mhm.
how can we actually solve this idea? And also helps not just people that forgot about how to do this, but also to people that they are bad, from scratch. Like, okay,
Yeah.
they are good finding problems, so they don't know about the solution, because that's also
Mhm.
happened, right? Not just of that thing. So I
Mhm.
feel that working in the design aspect of the solution or the
Mhm.
prototype, at first with the designers, that they think about how to shape the
Mhm.
capabilities a lot. It will help you to get this brain muscle trained, so you can get better in solution
Mhm.
space too. Because in a way, if I would have to hire a product manager, I want them,
Mhm.
of course, first to be obsessed with the problem, but then
Mhm.
to have a decent radio of solution space,
Mhm.
because sometimes you
Yeah.
are you are alone. Sometimes you don't have a
Mhm.
designers.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, some companies they don't have, or
Mhm.
sometimes you have a designer, but they are very good in
Yeah.
X, Y, Z, but not maybe finding solutions. So
Mhm.
if you can learn and you can try, yeah, you will get better. And
Mhm.
this is actually very, very useful, at least for product management level. Group product management, they care about other stuff, but for product management level, where you are in the field, yeah, you need to learn about
Mhm.
design stuff.
100%. I agree with you on that. So, as we are about to wrap up, is there anything about prototyping or about no code, and basically about everything we've discussed that you maybe would want to bring up? Something, a question I haven't asked you.
I'm
Mhm.
thinking about
Yeah.
no, I think I've shared at least.
Mhm.
Probably I feel that I've talked a lot about product
Mhm.
management and not enough about no code. Maybe there
Mhm.
is just one thing that I
Yeah.
can tell. Okay. Um, when I said at first that no code is this thing that is easy to learn
Mhm.
and start and then difficult to master,
Mhm.
I wasn't telling this that in a way that you get discouraged and you don't try it. Okay.
Mhm.
There are lots of different people that they are coming from different backgrounds, not just product, that they can start building things with product, and then
Mhm.
they ended up having a product. Okay,
Mhm.
so I encourage you to try no code, because in a way, if what
Mhm.
you really want is to validate an idea, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be the most level product at first. If
Mhm.
you are the first in the market, if you are not the first in the market, then we have a different story, right? But
Mhm.
no code, in a way, is something that we decide to combine with product management, because we feel
Mhm.
that empowers people to at least try to be more independent in terms
Mhm.
of ideation and also
Mhm.
experimentation, and
Mhm.
also to spark the entrepreneurship world. Because in a
Mhm.
way, until now, if you sometimes have an idea, you have the dependency of a developer. You
Mhm.
don't have the money, or you don't have no one around you that could help you with that. And we
Mhm.
feel that no code breaks this bridge,
Mhm.
and then you can
Right.
basically
Yeah.
start working by yourself. So yeah, I encourage everyone to start with no code.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're also a product manager, of course,
Mhm.
I wish that you can do no code too,
Mhm.
because it helps you with ideation and it also
Mhm.
empowers you to do things that are not in your capabilities because you are not a developer or a designer.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think personally, also, I've been trying to pick up a bit more no code tools. I want to learn Bubble, for example. So I think it just basically democratizes, all
Yeah.
that, like you being able to assess the technical feasibility of something and viability in like a really quick way. Um, yeah, I really appreciate that about no code. And thank you so much. I think this brings us to the end of the conversation, and I think it's been really insightful. I've learned so much. And yeah, I can't wait to share this with the entire Product Champ community and then to have you back as well. Maybe next time we can dig in a little bit deeper into how do you, talk about how do you explore problems in a more in
Okay.
another
Yeah, we can do
lens.
that. Perfect.
Yeah. All right. So do you have anything you want to promote? Where can people find you?
Yes, of course. I mean, we're a
Hmm.
company. Of course, we are happy to
Yeah.
find new clients and also to having people that we can help.
Hmm.
For small, medium companies and also entrepreneurs, we have that are now
Hmm.
having or using products that are not giving them enough result. Let's
Hmm.
say you have a bakery, 10
Hmm.
bakeries, and you have built a product that is not giving you the result. What we
Hmm.
are offering is just is 1 hour of interning work with them for free, where we can explore, okay, what is not working, what is
Hmm.
working, how can we
Hmm.
fix things with no code, and also empower your team to use no code so you don't have this dependency on other companies.
Hmm.
We are offering this consultancy for free for every person that is coming from the Product Champ
Hmm.
community, so they can learn about what is not working with the product and how can they fix it
Yeah.
with no code. In a way, maybe you think that no code is just for new products, but actually it's
Hmm.
not true. 50% of our clients, what we work with them is revamps. They have an
Hmm.
actual solution. They
Hmm.
built it like some long time ago. It's not
Hmm.
working for them, and we
Hmm.
build it with no code because we can iterate faster, and also
Hmm.
we can teach the team how to use no code so they
Hmm.
can basically revamp by themselves without the dependency of having a tech partner involved.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so everyone that comes from Product Champ community, we are offering this 1 hour session for free where we go
Hmm.
in, we talk with you, we review your product, and then we tell you about what we think that we can improve. And then it's on you, and we can give you the resources if you want, because Google is Google, and you can also find
Yeah.
everything. But if you're happy, we can start working with you. Okay?
All right. Thank you so much, Jorge. That's awesome. And I hope everyone that's watching takes advantage of that opportunity to just basically work with you to audit their systems and, yeah, basically find a new direction for themselves. Thank you so much. So you'll
Thanks a
find the
lot.
links to Jorge's public profiles and the no code, the link to your website and, your LinkedIn and all those other platforms where they can reach out. And a huge shout out to you for watching and sticking through to the end. If you found this video helpful or you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.
Perfect. Bye.